Today is some mini skid maintenance. We are going to go over how to take a track off, how to adjust the roller bearings, how to clean the bearings inside, then put it all back together, then put the track back on, and then properly tension the track finally. So let's talk about our setup that we have along with some of the tools that we're going to be using. I'm going to give the camera over to my esteemed maintenance chief. We have a float charger hooked in to our battery so that while we're turning it off and turning it back on, turning it off, turning it back on in this cold weather, it's not draining our battery. You don't need that, but I just wanted to mention what that cord is. Things that you're gonna want for this maintenance, you're gonna want some 4x4 blocking or cribbing, a 3/4 socket. Having it with an impact drill is great. You're gonna want some kind of pry bar, either a crowbar or a cat's paw or a baby crowbar.
That's a wonder bar.
You're going to want a good set of pliers. We use both these types of pliers, but you could get by with a good set of needle nose. You need a 17mm wrench.
Open end wrench.
Open end, yes, thank you. Vice grips are nice to have on hand, although you don't absolutely need them. This for the cotter pin.
Straight screwdriver.
A hammer, dead blow hammer is helpful. It's not absolutely required. Having an 1.5" socket is helpful for the castle nut. Plenty of these rags, these blue rags. Got my nitrile gloves on hand. Should have some spare of these larger size cotter pins. You definitely need a grease gun. EP2 lithium grease is what we would recommend. What else? What else? A couple of jack stands just for safety's sake while we prop the machine up. I think that covers all the essential tools and some of the optional tools that are more helpful. And while we're talking about that, let's talk about our cleanup. We're going to be squeezing out a lot of grease as we take the track off, so we've got a plastic bag here to collect that, and we have a bucket filled with some used diesel, and that is to clean off the roller bearings and the washers and the other components. And I've got this wire brush in. We also might be using some compressed air, which is not essential, but it's nice to have. You definitely want to have something to clean off your bearings. All right, so our first step is going to be to raise the entire machine. We're going to do this track today because we did the other track yesterday. We're just going to do all these roller bearings. Might not video them all, but we're going to at least show a couple of them. All right, we're going to take our blocking. We're going to put this under our frame, okay? Take our blocking. Yes, Puck, yes. We're gonna put it under the frame here, okay? In such a way that it's nice and secure. Then you're gonna have your attachment tilt down and lift. You're gonna tilt the attachment down and lower the boom or the lift arms. You really wanna get good clearance. Now you can see that it props up on this blocking right here, and that's what gets our clearance. It ain't a bad idea to throw in a jack stand at this point. This is the part where we're gonna get a little bit messy. These nitrile gloves, while I'm talking about it, these are cheaper. I bought them in bulk, but they're the medical style, so they're not as thick. I don't really recommend them as much as the thicker style, just saying. But I did get them cheap, so. Now, knee pads are nice for this type of work. We're gonna take our 17mm wrench. This is our track tensioner inlet, I suppose you'd call it. It would be great to wash this whole thing out when you're gonna do this service, but because the weather is so bad right now, it's so cold, it's been freezing, we're not going to do that today. Anyway, we're gonna take our 17mm and we're gonna get it on this hex fitting here and just break it. Once we've broken it, we can set that wrench aside and we can pull this out by hand. And I'm going to show you what this is. It's just a little capped thingy here that their tool, their special little pressure gauge tool goes on this. So this is the pressure gauge that I was just talking about. These larger threads are sticking out. You uncap them from the dust cover, and then you thread this gauge on here. And once this gauge has been threaded on here, it has a Zerk fitting to where you can pump grease, and then it has a dial to tell you what the track tension is supposed to be at. This is really important for the last step, which is when we retension the track. But for right now, we're gonna set this tool aside. And we had to take this off so that we can squeeze the grease out. I've seen guys give advice on how to do this, and I have learned the hard way that there is a much easier way. Guys will jump on this track, and sometimes that squeezes grease out. Grease is supposed to just come shooting out there, and it's like not coming at all. And then you could beat on this with a sledgehammer, try to knock it this way. That is a horrible idea. That doesn't work really well either. We are going to set a piece of wood into the rollers, and then when the track pulls that wood around the front roller, it's gonna force that thing to shoot grease out. You can also do this with pieces of firewood or just sticks that you see laying around. Seen guys use tools to do this with like wrenches. I don't know if I'd do that. It's gonna probably damage something. All right, so we're gonna turn her on. I'm gonna roll this track back. We'll watch that wood go across the roller bearing. All right, and watch that, see that grease all coming out there now? Even that little bit. And it's gonna keep coming out. Two by four just goes on in, and I'm able to get all that grease out. Okay, take this track off now that we've loosened it. To do this, it's easier to have two people. One guy can just slowly operate the track either forward or backward, and then another guy can apply some pull on it. Once it comes off this front roller bearing, we've got it. If you're doing this by yourself, you could try taking a ratchet strap and ratchet strapping around here and going to something off to the side and tightening it up, and that way you're putting side tension on it. Then you are free to operate the controls, and slowly it'll pull on off. Jason will operate the track while he's filming me off to the side. All right, that was it. Once we take it off that front roller, then it'll just come on out like that. Okay. We're gonna put this back on just to keep debris out of there for while we're doing this. And we're gonna use a blower to just kind of get all this junk off of here. Let me talk real quick why taking the track off is necessary. It's because when the track is properly tensioned, you're not gonna know if there's any wobble in these. These over time, they'll start to wobble. These ones aren't that bad, but you hear that? That also, we should, on occasion, clean out the bearings, clean out that old grease. All of these rollers have a little retention band. The only lugs that we need to remove are the ones that are holding that band in place. We're just gonna take our band off here. Now, if yours don't come off as easy as ours, it's not a bad idea to just PB blast it or WD-40 or something. All right, we're just kind of cleaning this dirt off a little bit around the seam. This dust cap is this part right here. It is very difficult to get off. Just kind of loosen it up. And I like to use this to just get that gap started on each side. Get that gap kind of started. See how it's popping off? And then the maintenance chief told me to use a 5-in-1 paint can opener. I'm definitely not as good with this. Go ahead and pop that lid a little more. There we go. Okay, all right. There we go. Okay, that is some nasty old grease. Okay, we're gonna drop this hub into the diesel bucket. Now, next step, we're gonna straighten out this cotter pin. You may not be able to see it, but there is a cotter pin in there. We wanna try to straighten it out as much as possible before we try to pull it out. Okay, straighten it out as best you can. Then we're gonna try to pull up on it, and if it doesn't come right on out, then don't get discouraged. I like to take a flathead screwdriver, like a hefty flathead screwdriver, and then I can just kind of tap on it with either another tool or a hammer, and you see it's pulling it out with ease. Now, one little pro tip: put your cotter pin in upside down, and it'll make it easier to extract with that tapping method. Once we've gotten the cotter pin out, the next step is this castle nut. The castle nut should be able to rotate by hand. If it does not rotate by hand, then using an 1/2" socket will do you. And it will be a little easier to grip that socket. When it comes to taking them off, you can use an impact. I would not use an impact to put it back on, okay? But we're gonna take it off just to make it a little easier there. All right, that's a castle nut, and it is nasty. We're gonna put that in the diesel bucket. There's a washer in there, and then there is also a roller bearing on this front side, and then there's another roller bearing on the other side. To make it even just easier to pull this all off, we're just gonna kind of wiggle this whole hub, because in this case it's not gonna come out on it. Get the washer first. Oh, and it took the bearing with it, which is nice, because the bearing, if the bearing gets stuck, then you can use like a stick or something and kind of hammer it around to loosen it up. But in this case, it was stuck to the washer. They're going into the diesel bucket. And then let's see if I can wiggle this whole thing off. Hammer here. Yeah, it feels like this isn't meant to come off, but it does. All right, now we can see this other bearing, and let's make sure that the heads of these bolts, they go in towards the machine. The threads should be sticking back out at you when you put this back on. So just keep that in your mind when it comes to reassembly. This is all that old grease. It's just so nasty and cooked, and like makes its own kind of rubber looking washer thing. Anyway, we're gonna pull that bearing off if we can get it, because we gotta clean it and inspect it. And it feels like it won't come off either.
Now, the only thing that's holding you is this sludge here. That's making it impossible.
Little by little, we'll just have to clean this up. Keep it going. Keep getting that diesel on there.
But yeah, you're right. It makes this rubber seal that actually is preventing grease from getting in or dirt particles from getting expelled. It's just wrecking the bearing to have that old oil on there. You've got the thickness of your thumb clearance
there
between.
We go.
Yeah.
Got it. Finally. Okay, so look at that, man.
Oh,
One of those is missing here.
$22.50 in stock in Charlotte.
That might have been why it was so hard to get off too.
Yep. That's bad.
It wasn't working. Good thing we're inspecting it. All right. Well, had to get a new bearing, so I'll go ahead and give that part number. LM67048. National Bearings is the brand we're gonna have here. We did call Ditch Witch directly, and asked if that is going to work. They said that that is an exact match. All right, time to pack the bearing.
Oh, wait. We gotta clean out that wheel.
Clean out the wheel first. Yeah. Tell you what, while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and pull. I'm going to pull this one because this one's a little bit wobbly. I'm going to show this middle one here. And the middle one is nice because you can prop right off of that. You can prop right off of that rim there. Pull that pin. And then give it a light tap just so you can get a screwdriver underneath the eye of it. Then just tap it on up. You can see, once again, I wish this cotter pin had been put the other way. It'd make it a lot easier, but I'm still able to get it. There we go. There we go. Okay. Wipe some of that grease off of there. You can see that castle nut. Just for time's sake, gonna put that 1.5 inch socket on it. See if this roller comes out. It just kind of helps it. Can help it come loose. All right, we're gonna just pull this whole thing back. There we go. Okay. By pulling that whole thing, we've got the washer and the bearing, like so. You can see the arrangement. The tapered sides are facing in towards each other. Rear bearing, front bearing. That washer is hard to see. There it is. And then this hub just comes, the whole thing comes off it. That's taking them apart. We're gonna clean these ones up the same way. This,
shake it out. Look at this diesel. It's nice, clean diesel. This one is in much better shape than the back one. I'll bet you this one has been serviced multiple times and the back one never has been. This rolls real easy. I don't see any broken bearings. There's not a lot of lateral motion here. This outer race is nice and round. All the bearings are contained.
so what can people use to clean these other than diesel fuel?
Kerosene, mineral spirits, or naphtha. Naphtha is a great solvent, like you use in a parts washer. Make it look brand new, probably. But all very dangerous to handle. Gloves are an essential. So I'm going to blow this out.
All right, so we've just cleaned off this wheel. So I've just got one more rag here to kind of take up all this diesel off my gloves and then take it off the parts as I put them back on one last time, as we're repacking grease into them and everything. And just kind of massage that in there. How's this looking, Chief? Am I looking good?
Looks like an expert job.
Oh man, quit my climbing career now.
Quit climbing and graduate to the garage.
To the garage. Okay, now the tapered end faces in. Snug that up there.
Into the hub of the wheel.
In this way, right?
Gotcha.
I'm sorry, yes.
That's correct.
Thank you for specifying that. Put a little bit in here, a little bit on there, and then spread that around. All right. Now, threads poking back at me.
Right. That's good.
And
When
then
you put the castle nut on, that'll
yeah.
put it where it needs to be.
Okay, now it's gonna face in the other way. Washer, don't forget the washer. And let's just kind of snug it in there. So it doesn't really want to.
Castle nut will put it where it needs to be.
You think I can thread that as it is? I barely have any thread sticking out. Let's see. See if I can thread it in there.
Should lift up on the wheel.
Yeah, it's going, but there we go. It's pushing that. It's pushing that bearing in. Okay, so on the other one we did it hand tight, and then we checked it afterwards, and it was still wobbling after we had put everything together. So this time we're going to use a wrench, but we're going to be a lot more careful. Okay.
No squeezing the bearings.
Yeah, we don't want to compress the bearings. So I've got a dead stop right there. It's not, there's no sound, there's no play in it, so that's a good spot to leave it. However, I do have to either tighten it or back it off to get that hole exposed. So I'm gonna just tighten it a little bit and see, because right there, I need that hole exposed. Okay, so I've got it, and it can still roll, so it's not so tight that it's not able to roll. All right, but there's no play in it. We don't want play in it. Now, the cotter pin. For size reference here, it's a 5/32 by 2.5 inch cotter pin. You just want to have some extra ones on hand. Now, Chief is saying that for the video, it would look a lot better if we put new cotter pins in. But as the owner, I'm all about expense conservation. So we are gonna use these cotter pins that are not totally destroyed and deformed and broken. They'll do the job. But one day they will break, and that's when you wanna have spares on hand. I am gonna put the cotter pin in, and then I'm gonna pack it full of grease one last time, because it's a lot easier to see what I'm doing. All right.
That's pretty smart.
Yeah. Isn't that smart? A bit better. Everything, all the tools are so greasy that it's like really hard to do that. Tell you what if I
lock it?
Yeah, with a pair of vice grips. There we go. And then take the dead blow hammer. There she goes. Now again, I put it that way on purpose so that when it's time to take it down, you can just take this screwdriver and just boom, go down like that. It's much easier. Make sure your tools are clean as you stick them back into this hub that you just spent all that time cleaning. Okay, get it bent to about there. And then just beat it down with pliers. And it doesn't have to be down all the way. It just needs to allow that dust cap to fit on there. Okay, we're gonna squirt some grease in after we did all that, so that we don't need to see what we're doing anymore. And then I'm gonna squirt grease in this cap as well. Just make sure there's no diesel residue in there. Break down our grease. Oh, I'm about out. That's okay, because we
line it up with the lugs.
Oh yes, thank you. I think I'm in line with them. Lug.
Looks good.
Strap across them. Take that now and make sure that we're lined up. We're within tolerance there. Start these lugs with your fingers. Okay. Get a few threads on with the fingers, and then you can switch over to a 3/4 socket. All right. We're gonna do this one. We're not gonna video this one. Okay, we're ready to put this track back on. Get the teeth on either side of the drive sprocket and that bottom roller, and just kind of pull it by hand and stretch it as close as you can. But more than likely what you're gonna have to do is either try to walk it backwards or use a buddy who can operate the controls while another person sort of pushes on it. I like to just kind of sit here and kind of kick it with my feet. over the front drive roller. And the last thing to do is to open this little guy back up here. All right, just cleaning the threads out a little bit. As Chief pointed out, we need to put some Loctite on here.
Loctite blue.
Yes.
Removable.
Loctite blue is important. Funny story, one of my other dudes thought that Loctite red and blue were about interchangeable, that red was just a little bit stronger. So I'm pretty sure he put it on the threads of one of the screws for the flywheel cover on the 462 chainsaw. And yeah, that thing broke off halfway in there, and I was not able to get it out even with an extractor. So now our 462 has a different size bolt running through it. Okay, we're gonna get our special little pressure meter. Yeah, grease gauge, that's right, track tension fitting. Now, if you don't have one of these, because maybe you bought the thing used, looks like you could just kind of fabricate this. Or just call Ditch Witch, that's what I would do, and have them send you one. Now you can see that little gauge is in the red, but obviously this track is not where it should be because it's just hanging down. So I'm not gonna worry about really even watching the gauge until all the slack is sucked up. Here soon it's gonna start jumping up a lot. And okay, now you need it to settle in the green. You shouldn't be able to wiggle this too much. It really is hard with these gauges. Sometimes they read right, and sometimes they don't seem to read right.
Tap it again.
So you just want to kind of go off the feel of it with your arms and hands more than just the gauge. All right, the gauge is a cool tool to help you out. Like it says that I'm sort of in the red, but if I pull this off now, okay, it's holding. So it's holding in the green. We did this before, and every time I pulled it off, it dropped. Probably because the gauge was really dirty. But like I said, between using your gauge to kind of get you close and getting a feel for it with your arms, you don't want this so tight that it damages the drive rollers or the spindles or any of that, okay? So you definitely don't want to be in the red. But if this gauge is dirty, it might read that it's in the red even when it's not, if that makes sense. We'd like to show you guys what we've done to have like a little emergency kit with us. Took like an old welding electrodes box, and I just store a few wrenches. Now this is the 17mm wrench that we need if we have to release the tension on the tracks. A 7/8 and a 15/16. These are for the hydraulic hose couplings. One of them goes to one of the couplings on our grapple. If we need to crack a line, we're able to do that. And then obviously this grease tensioner gauge needs to go in there. Throwing in a handful of gloves, some blue towels, and a plastic bag, just so that if you do slip a track on a job site, you're gonna have to do some of that process that we showed in this video. You're gonna have to squirt the grease out like a tube of toothpaste, and then you're gonna need to refill it. So having a plastic bag and some gloves and some towels with you is always a good idea. We just set that in right there, and it stays with the machine, doesn't get forgotten. Now, like I said, one more thing you must have is a grease gun. So grease gun goes in a separate box. It can't fit in there, but grease gun goes with our skid everywhere. And then we have a grease gun in our chipper as a backup. Anyway, there you go. That's the skid track replacement, and then adjusting these roller bearings. Hope that was fun to watch.